Alright, so I weaved in all my ends. I have my panel over here. I've threaded the end, the long tail, into my tapestry needle. I'm going to be using a green styrofoam wreath for this. I do have a white one as well, and I stretched this orange one over both of them, and some of the color will peek through, and I like the darker color of the green as opposed to the brighter white peeping through. Totally up to you. I happen to have both on hand, otherwise I would have just gone with whatever I had. When you wrap your panel around your wreath base, you're going to notice that it's going to come up short, and that's okay, that's what we want. We want our fabric to be shorter because it's going to stretch, and it will stretch to fit completely. So this is perfect. I am going to rotate this. We have the wrong side of the fabric facing us right now. Put our wreath form in there, and then when you wrap the two pieces around, the cable stitch pattern is the finished side that we want on top, and the wrong side is just going to wrap around the wreath form base. I have the tail end side on the bottom, and as I wrap them around, I will just hold those two layers together there. I'm going to put my tail in the center. I like to work from the top down, so that's why I've positioned it this way. If you like to work from the bottom up, then you might want to reverse it. We're going to work through both layers at the same time as we sew around, and I'm just going to do like a whip stitch around. So to attach it first, I'm going to go here under both layers of the first stitch from the other end of the panel, which is the back layer right now. And then I'll go through both layers of the very first stitch there where my tail end is coming out of and pull through. And just pull until it's completely through and secured there. I'm going to hold my two sides together. I want to make sure as I work I'm lining up my stitches on the side so that the finished piece comes out even and not twisted. So just make sure as you work that you're lining your rows up here, and you may want to go through and safety pin them or put a stitch marker every so often so that you don't have to stop and check yourself every time. I'm just going to work through a little bit here, but stitch markers are definitely a big help here. I do like my fabric to be a little bit smaller than my reform. At the end we have some extra fabric there because it's not quite cinched up like the rest of it worked in the cable stitch pattern, so it's going to be a little bit larger there, and that's okay. Here in the body, you're going to lay your work here, and you're going to find that you're going to need to stretch to make it fit. That's exactly what we want. It's going to give us the best look here, and our fabric's not going to be all bulked up and bunchy. I'm going to work as close to the side edge as possible as I stitch, so that I don't cause any big holes here on the sides. And I prefer to pick up 2 loops on my needle as I work for extra security, but if you're in a position where you can only pick up 1 loop on your hook, then that's fine. I do like to be extra secure with my stitches, so I will run through them twice, but if you're feeling good with your stitches, you can just run through once. It uses less yarn. So I'm going to take my needle from the top layer down here on the edge, picking up that loop on my needle, and then I'm going to run it straight down into that bottom layer, picking up the loops on my needle as well. I have both layers on my needle, and I'm going to pull through. Then I'm going to go here to the next row on the top layer, picking up both loops there, and I'm going to come directly down into that stitch I just finished on the bottom, picking up those loops again on my needle as well, so I have both layers on my needle, and pull through. Then I'll come over to the next stitch here on the top, working through the side edge directly down into the side edge of the bottom layer with those loops there on the side edge on my needle, and pull through. I do normally like to work straight up and down and then at an angle. So first thing I did there was straight up and down. Now I've worked at an angle because I've come over. So here's where I would like to go back into that stitch right above me and work directly down. That's how I work twice into my stitches for added security. You don't have to do that. You can just hold your layers here and go into the next stitch over here. Just work as close to the side edge as possible so you're not creating big holes here on the side, and continue with this process all the way around. Make sure to stop periodically to check to make sure that your rows are lining up. Otherwise, your panel is going to be twisted onto your form and it is going to appear twisted as well. That is not the look you want to go for. So just work evenly all the way around. I'm going to do a little section here so you can see how I work, and then I'll do the rest off camera. Alright, so I'm just going to keep going along, and every so often I'll hold my rows together just so that I can make sure that everything is lining up as I go. Stitch markers are a great tool to help you pin down your rows so you don't have to stop and check yourself as you go. So I have these little stitch markers here, and you just line up your rows a little ways down and pin them together. And then I will do a little bit more here. You can do bigger sections or smaller sections, and then pin your layers together. And then go a little bit more and pin your layers together. And this is going to be the easiest thing to do, and if you only have 4 stitch markers like I do, then you only do 4 and you just move them as you go. But at least this way, you know your fabric's going to line up and you don't have to stop to check yourself. I definitely recommend doing stitch markers if you have them handy. You can also use a scrap piece of yarn or safety pins, or even earrings if you have lever back earrings like this stitch marker that I have here. It came with my crochet hook, and it has a little spot up here where I can hook it up. I'll link this in the description box below if you're interested. Before I go, in the event that you run out of yarn as you're working, the way that I like to do it is I would work until I get close to the end. Then I would weave in my ends on the inside, the wrong side of the fabric. Then to start a new strand, the first thing I would do is weave in on the wrong side so it's secure, trying to come out near where I need my stitch to come out on the edge. And then that would put me in a position where I can go ahead and work around. I will continue working all the way around until I'm ready to seam up the two sides, and then I'll be back to do that with you. I've made it all the way around, and here it's going to look like it is not long enough to finish covering this gap, but you'll just stretch the fabric so that it will come together. And now we're just going to whip stitch the seam here. You want to make sure that you have the seam that you joined even from both sides here that you're going to join. You want it to be one continuous line there. Then just take your needle and sew the two layers together the same way that you've been sewing the side seam. Alright, I'm going to continue working off camera until I have the whole thing seamed, and I'm back to the beginning, and then I'll weave in my end. I just made it back to the beginning. You can see here how my whip stitch looks. One thing I was a little concerned about with this pattern is that after I started on this wreath, I made a scarf using the same pattern, and I adjusted the beginning and the end so that it wasn't flaring out, it was even with the rest by decreasing the number of stitches. And I was a little bit worried it would be really puffy here on the wreath since I didn't decrease that. And it is a little bit puffy here, but I think as the fabric rests it will be fine. Plus this is the spot here where you would hang it from your wreath hanger to cover up the seam or embellish it. So some puffiness here, not a problem. If you're reading the crochet pattern and you notice a difference, then this may be it, because I may modify the written pattern so that it has decreases in the beginning and the end, so it's not as puffy, it's more even with the rest. But I'm not worried about this. I'm gonna go ahead and work one more stitch here, and then I'm going to weave into the seam where I joined the two layers, and I'm going to weave it in the same way that I weaved in the first end, breaking my entrance and exit in half and doing 3 passes. And now I'm ready to fasten that off. And then the base of the wreath form is ready. And up here on the seam where you could clearly see where the two were sewn together, I'm just going to use my wreath hanger to cover that up right there. So I'm going to show you how to make that next. You could also hang it on a door hanger that hangs directly from the door. If you wanted to hang it on a door hanger and you don't want this to be there, even though it will be covered up by that hanging part, you can embellish it right here on the front side and no one will even know. Let me put this aside, grab my brown yarn and my H hook, and now we're going to get ready to make our hanger. If you do not want to make this hanger, then you're all set. You'll find the free crochet pattern for it linked in the description box. But if you do want to make a crocheted hanger, then let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is start with a slip knot. So I've pulled the yarn over my fingers here, wrap it around my index finger 2 times, hold the tension with my thumb and my middle finger, pull the loop on the left up over the other one but not off my finger, then pull the loop on the left up over the other one and off my finger. Take my crochet hook, insert it into the loop on my finger and pull it off. Hold the working yarn in my right hand and pull the short tail end with my left so that knot goes to a normal tension. Then we're going to work a chain 43. To chain, we're going to yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. This gives us 3 chains there. I'm going to continue working until I have 43. There's 43 chains worked. We're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. We don't count the loop that's on our hook. Skipping this first chain, and in that second chain, insert right into the center of it. Yarn over, pull through. We have 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through both loops. That completes a single crochet. We're going to continue single crocheting into each chain all the way until we get to the end. Let's work a couple more together. Insert your hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. Insert your hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. I'm going to continue working all the way down. When I get to the end, I'm going to finish with 42 single crochets. And to count them, you use the V shapes here at the top. So far we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've just finished row 1 with 42 single crochets. For row 2, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Then I'm going to single crochet into the very first stitch there. I'm going to insert right into the stitch, picking up both loops from the V shape on the top, and complete my single crochet. And then I'll continue single crocheting into each stitch all the way across the row, and at the end of the row we're going to have the same number of single crochets here as we did in row 1. And now row 2 is complete. For row 3, we're going to start with a chain 1 and turn. This is going to be the row that we introduce the buttonholes, or the spaces that you're going to use to hang your wreath from. We're going to start with a single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches here. Now I'm going to chain 4. I'm going to skip each of the next 4 stitches, and in the next stitch I'm going to work a single crochet. And this chain space here is what forms our buttonhole. This is where the wreath hanger can go through, or a nail. Both of our sides are going to be equal. Keep in mind that this chain space will stretch out, but if you feel you need more space, then you can either work less single crochets in the beginning or less single crochets in the middle, and add another chain and skip another to make this longer. Here in the center, including this one that I already worked, I want to have 26 single crochets. Now I have 26 single crochets in the center. I'm going to chain 4, skip each of the next 4 stitches, and in the last 4 stitches of the row I'm going to work a single crochet. And if you've adjusted the first half for the chain space, trying to make it larger, just make sure you repeat that here on this end. And now row 3 is complete. For row 4, I'm going to chain 1 and turn, single crochet into each of those first 4 stitches. In the chain space, I'm going to work 4 single crochets. I'm going to insert my hook directly into the center of the chain space, picking up the chains on my hook so I could crochet over it, and then complete my single crochet. And I'm working 4 single crochets here because I have 4 chains. If you've created 5 chains, so you have a longer chain space there, then you work 5 single crochets. And now I'll continue along the center there, working a single crochet into each stitch. There will be 26 single crochets here in the center. And now I've reached the next chain space. I'm going to insert my hook right into the center of the chain space and complete 4 single crochets. And then finish it with a single crochet into each of those last 4 stitches. And now row 4 is finished. Row 5, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and single crochet into the very first stitch and each stitch all the way across the row. And that completes row 5. Now we just need to add a border. To begin our border, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Single crochet into this very first stitch of the round. And then single crochet all the way across until I get to the very last stitch. And in the last stitch, we're going to work an increase. We need to increase, which means add extra stitches, so that the corners will lay flat. Alright, so I've worked up to the last stitch here. In this final stitch, we're going to work 3 single crochets all into that same stitch, and that's going to form our corner increase. Now we're going to work down the side here, and in the side of each of those rows in the middle, there's 3 rows in the middle, we're going to work a single crochet. We want to make sure we work as close to the side edge as possible, not in the spaces in between the last 2 stitches, as that will cause a big gap in your fabric. So you want to insert your hook into the center of the stitch on the edge, breaking it in half, and when you do that, you're going to have 2 loops on your hook, the same V shape that you have when you insert into a stitch. Then we'll complete our single crochet. The next one looks more like a hole. It still has 2 loops there, but they're very tight, so it's harder to see. But you'll insert into the hole there on the edge and complete a single crochet. The next one looks like a V shape. Insert into the center of it, picking up 2 loops on your hook, breaking that stitch in half, and complete your single crochet. Now we've reached the next corner, and in that very next stitch, we're going to work 3 single crochets to form our next corner. And then we'll single crochet into each stitch along the opposite side of the foundation chain there. Each one looks similar to how it did when you first started working into your foundation chain. It's just on the other side of it, so you see the back bump there. But you'll single crochet as normal all the way across until you get to the last stitch, and we'll work another increase. So not including the last stitch and this first stitch that we worked our corner, you'll have 40 single crochets in the center. The next stitch is going to be my last stitch, and I'm going to work 3 single crochets there. It may open up because that's where our slip stitch is, so just move the tail to the side, work your 3 single crochets as normal. Hold the fabric here in your right hand, pull the tail in with your left to close up the hole, and then just drop it to the back. And you'll secure that when you weave in your ends here in a few moments. We have 3 stitches here up the side to match the other one. The stitches look pretty close to how they did before, they're just the opposite side of them. So the next one still looks like a stitch, it's just the back of it. Insert into the center of it, breaking that stitch in half, picking up those 2 loops on your hook, and complete the single crochet. Insert into the next stitch, which looks more like a hole, but as close to the side edge as possible. Complete your single crochet. Next one looks like a V shape there. Insert into the center, picking up those 2 loops, and complete the single crochet. And now we're back to the beginning. In this very first stitch where we worked our first single crochet, I'm going to work 1 single crochet in there. And because I'm going to slip stitch join here, the slip stitch join forms a stitch along the top there that takes the place, so we don't need to add another single crochet to make this 3. Insert your hook into the very first stitch, picking up both loops. Yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on your hook. I'm going to pull up a loop here. And now our hanger is finished. Before you fasten off, it's a good time to make sure that it fits the way that you want on your wreath form. That way you could always pull it out if you need to, not waste the yarn. So I'm going to grab my wreath form here. And this seam is where I'm going to put mine. And this is how it's going to fit. Here in the buttonhole will be your hanger or your nail or whatever you're using, and then the rest will fit around your wreath. Time to weave in the ends. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off here. Pull up on this loop to break it. Insert my hook from the wrong side to the right side into that same stitch I just joined to. Yarn over and pull through. That way it's on the back with all the rest. And I'm going to weave these ends in the same way that I did my other ones. 3 passes, breaking my stitches in half as I enter and exit. Here, we want to make sure that we don't get anywhere near the buttonhole or the center because we don't want to prohibit any of the stretching there. So I'm just going to bring it over and then go horizontally here through the rows, and this one on the top left, I'm going to bring it down and then go through the rows right underneath that. I'm actually going to work a 4th pass here at the top, just for my peace of mind. Alright, now I can fasten these 2 ends off. My hanger is complete. And now I can go put my wreath up. And I'm so excited to have this done. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. I would love to know what colors you're going to be using for your wreath, what season you're making it for, or how you're going to embellish it. You'll find the free crochet pattern for this linked in the description box below. Please smash that like button and hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.